Hello and welcome back to our weekly market recap. I'm with Gayle.
Hi, I'm glad to be back.
And I'm Knight. Let's get to it. So this past week we did see the market down 0.63%. We're still up year to date 1.25%. We are off the highs that we saw in February, down 2.59%, but we're up from the lows that we saw in March, 47.42%. So this week, one of the big key takeaways is that even though the S&P was down, we did see the NASDAQ up for the first time in 3 weeks, which shows the market continuing to have volatility up and down in this time, but we are seeing tech swing back to leading the way, which is what we've seen for the majority of this recovery. But even though, and especially since we've seen so much volatility in the last 3 weeks, we actually have Gayle on to talk about what volatility does and stress that it causes, and to talk more just broadly about the coronavirus and what we've seen during this time.
Yeah, thank you,
Thoughts?
Knight. Yeah, thank you, Knight. I don't need to say anything about stress because you already know that it's present. You've been experiencing it. We've had a prolonged pandemic. We've got lots of different news that's been coming out that's been really disheartening and troubling. And we have our own personal situations that are going on that are cause a lot of upheaval. So one of the things that is really important for us to recognize is that in these, I'm going to say, unprecedented times, the ways that we normally go to create relief and restore may not be working. And in fact, we want to try a few different things. And one of the areas of science and neurological studies that has been very fascinating in the past few years is with our nervous system. And stress is obviously where our nervous system is basically activated. And you may be familiar with Stephen Porges' work in polyvagal theory and some of the work by one of his colleagues, Deb Dana, who has wrote a beautiful book, and she's created a very user-friendly program called Befriending Your Nervous System, which sounds true. And it's really about being able to tap into your nervous system and make it feel better, like give it some relief. So there's 3 ways that I find reliable, and I wanted to bring them here and offer them to you, and maybe we could try one of them out to help calm our nervous system and hopefully create a less stress and give our body system and our mind system a little bit of relief. So nature, walking out in nature, even trying to take your shoes off, even if it's cool, and feel your feet on the ground is a reliable way to balance your system. Nature is inherently balanced, and that energy from nature will support us in relaxing and feeling safer. Our breath, taking conscious breaths, particularly taking a smaller inhale and a longer exhale, is a way to calm our nervous system. We're going to try that together in a minute. And then the last thing that I have found surprisingly, even in a period where we are isolating ourselves, is something I call cocooning, like really going inside and being with yourself in a very, I'm going to say isolated, but just solo place. So you're not so affected by the energy that you're experiencing in your home, in the field that you are walking or working or living. So nature, breath, and cocooning. If you're feeling a lot of stress, maybe try that. Try something and see what happens. So let's just take a moment. And Knight, you want to try this with us? And if you've got some questions, I'd love to hear too. Let's just take an inhale for 4 and an exhale for 6 and do that 3 times. And just notice in your own presence right now, what happens? So let's begin. So I've just taken 3 breaths. And what I immediately notice is I actually feel a sense of my voice dropping and is a little bit deeper. I don't know if that sounds different to you all, but I feel slower. So Knight, anything?
I agree with the same sentiment of the pace slows down, and specifically around stress and nervous, it's my heart beats very fast when I get stressed out, and becomes very contracted. So even just these breaths currently, it almost resets and slows down my body and takes a little bit of a pause from everything that's going around. And I think the two notices, one, when I take slow breaths in and then even longer out, I focus on the breath more, and I just focus on what's actually being experienced currently, instead of either my mind wandering or my entire body just feeling contracted.
Thank you. Why don't we add one more? Pause. You mentioned pause. I think that's a great move too. And yeah, just receive this and see how it works for you and experiment. We're going to try to leave a link underneath this video to the program that Deb Dana is offering. And I think it's just a free podcast that you can learn more about befriending your nervous system. But even if you don't do that, just try these out, and then, between now and the end of the year, and help yourself and your nervous system and the levels of stress that we're all feeling. And thank you for letting me join you this week, Knight.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, before we let you go, I do have kind of one question for you around this topic, and that's really about in the moment. At least when I feel stressed in the moment, it almost feels impossible to take that pause to do these breaths. Something so simple of just breathing in and out, it feels like, okay, I could do that at any time. And yet when I'm caught up in the heat of the moment, it's the farthest thing I almost can't remember, or, there's every excuse in the book to actually engage in the practice. So I guess my question for you is, how do you really just do it? You notice in your body when, okay, I feel an elevated tension. How is that the signal to actually engage? Okay, let me just breathe. Let me just not worry about the million things going on.
Yeah, that's a great question, because certainly if we're completely stressed out, the last thing might be thinking about is, how do I alleviate the stress? So a couple of things. One, just by talking about it and setting your own commitment and intention to, I really want to drop my stress. I really want to meet that stress in a more skillful, healthy way. So just thinking about that and setting an intention to really do that. Practice it when you wake up, lunchtime, before you go to bed, just so you can get more of a body imprint of what it feels like. And then this may sound corny, but visual stickers on my computer, on my mirror, on my refrigerator, different places in my environment that just say breathe or smile or something. help cue me in of like, you know what, let's just breathe. So try those, and again, see what happens. Because the more we do this, and the more you have a positive experience, the more your body is going to cue up for you. Oh, just breathe. So thank you for asking that.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's really helpful because, at least for myself, and I'm sure others out there, the stress of the idea of, well, how do I be perfect at diagnosing when I'm stressed and immediately reacting to breathe seems difficult. But having this practice of, okay, what if I can wake up every morning and breathe? I can do it at lunch, and I can do it, after dinner, and those 3 times, and just see where it goes from there. So that feels very tangible and something that I can implement in my life, which obviously is how I would love to approach it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. There's no perfection in decreasing stress. Yeah. Play with breathing in a new way.
Well, thank you for joining us, and thank you for listening. If you have any questions about this or anything else, please reach out to us. Like Gayle said, we're going to have a link down in the description, so that way you can access the tool or the reference that Gayle made. But thank you, and we will see you next week.